less than 100 years ago, humankind developed the technology that lets us communicate with one another. Ever since radio and television were invented, we have been sending signals into space, announcing our existence to other civilizations. There have been moments, very enticing moments, when it has seemed that perhaps we have actually detected another civilization.
Welcome. This film documents an event that has never taken place. Man's first ever encounter with intelligent life from space. No alien has ever been observed, and as far as we know, no alien has ever observed us. An alien spacecraft has never landed on Earth, but the experts and institutions dealing with this unprecedented event are all real. Our scenario begins with the arrival. Your arrival. Welcome to our planet.
I'm very curious about why you are here on Earth. I'm curious about what you care about.
May I ask a very direct question? I'm really interested to learn. How do you think? I'm sorry, I do not want to be nosy, but how is your mind constructed and composed?
Have you imagination? Have you the capacity to be outside the actual reality? Outside this time and this space.
Did you come here to learn about us? Did you come here knowing about our existence?
How long are you going to stay? Are there more of you? Where have you been before?
What makes you happy?
Do you know what is good and what is evil?
I wonder whether there's something about human beings that you see that we don't see about ourselves. And I also wonder whether there's something that we see that you don't.
With your arrival, suddenly there are aliens among us. It changes everything and concerns every one of us. Only the United Nations can respond on behalf of all mankind.
So we're talking here about a spacecraft with intelligent life, right?
What we're, yes.
Yeah. Why have they come here? They could go anywhere. Are they here in peace, or are they here to
This has never happened to our world before that we know of. In our recorded history, nobody has ever arrived unannounced or even announced from another world.
somebody has to go into the site to verify that this is a spacecraft from outer space?
As much as we talk about this, I'm not so sure whether people are really mentally that prepared for something like this to actually happen. With this simple question, what does it mean?
Yes.
It would probably mean a whole rethink of everything.
I doubt that they would come here by chance. Why us?
Our world is new to you. Your existence is new to us. Our authorities will immediately be alerted of your presence. The authorities in our scenario are defense and communication advisors from the UK, the Austrian military, and the United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs.
We really don't know that there has been, please don't laugh, but it could well have been a landing by some sort of craft. Nobody's taken a photograph as far as we're aware of whatever it is. We don't even have a description. We just know that there's something unusual. The Prime Minister's view is very much that he doesn't want this to get out into the media because you just don't know what the public view might be.
They would not want to be detected for as long as they want to be carrying out some intelligence. What kind of civilization has evolved? Those answers can be found. The first thing that the UN needs to do, we need to verify this at the governmental level. Verify the landing, what's happened since the landing.
I guess there are potentially three reasons why it has arrived. One is it's got into trouble, it's landed in emergency, if you like. Or it could be an exploratory mission. There must be a third potential option, which is something which is hostile, which is malign, and has a bad intent.
I think we can discount the hostile because I think it would have done something overtly hostile already. It wouldn't even needed to have landed if it were hostile. Either this is one of a number of craft that's doing some exploration. It's curious.
Just before we dispose of the malign intent, if this thing has got some sort of defensive capability, if it is frightened or concerned about the way it's approached, it might then go malign by accident rather than having a malign intent to start with. And so what we want to make very certain we do is we don't actually give it excuse to think that it's being, that we are being offensive to it.
want to control the communication, the last thing you want is lots and lots of people trying to communicate with it. I think you have to quarantine that area.
You lock down any overflights and police that appropriately.
Yes.
With military air forces, yes, and indeed the airlines, the relevant airlines concerned. We want to communicate with this thing in a very peaceful, welcome type of way. We absolutely equally don't want to cause it any anxiety.
For us to assume that we know all about the universe, the structure of the universe, or about life itself, is giving ourselves too much credit given where we are now in terms of our knowledge.
We humans rarely recognize our own limitations. We regard ourselves as the center of the universe. How do you see us?
The questions, where do we come from and why is Earth like it is, of course, is very much connected to are there other life forms out there? We are the United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs. Fundamental questions on how do we want to behave? How do we behave? How should we behave if we meet a completely different life form? Very difficult questions. There are no rules and procedures. There is nothing in place. There is no one identified who should be a spokesperson for humanity.
First Contact has been a highly anticipated event. We expect that when we meet other life forms who we're completely unfamiliar with, the difficulty in determining whether they are intelligent and self-aware will be even more difficult than what it is dealing with our own species here on Earth.
In the wake of our space age, we set up a post-detection task group made up of scientists who volunteered to be the first to meet you. Now that your spacecraft has been detected, they will be dispatched.
I have confidence enough in experts that they would tell the story as it is. But then again, you cannot speculate that the scientists are going to lie or take a political stance. The only reason why you would dispatch a group of scientists is because you are sure, you are confident these scientists will tell you the truth.
Hello and welcome. I'm Cheryl Bishop, and in my profession, what I do is to study how humans interact.
I'm John Rummel, and I work for an organization called COSPAR, which maintains standards for biological planetary protection.
My name is Doug Vakoch. I'm the Director of Interstellar Message Composition at the SETI Institute.
My name is Chris McKay. I'm an astrobiologist working at NASA.
I'm very happy to welcome you in this place.
My name is Jacques Arnould. I am a theologian and work as an ethic advisor for the French Space Agency.
The different experts, these different individuals who have deep knowledge about a particular area also have different ways of knowing. Knowledge is not only data and facts, but an intuitive understanding.
My name is Chris Welch. I work at the International Space University in Strasbourg, where I am a professor of space engineering. I have volunteered to enter the alien spacecraft first.
I'm preparing to approach and possibly enter the alien landing craft. In order to do this, I have to wear a self-contained suit so that there's no danger of biological or chemical contamination. So I'm preparing all the different pieces of equipment. Whatever happens to me, the important thing is that the information gets back to the outside world. Now I'm setting off from the forward base that's been set up a kilometre from the landing craft. I stop periodically every 50 metres to check communications are still working back to the forward base, and to take images and to record readings from the various instruments. This is a little psychologically overwhelming. I have to stay focused on what I'm doing. I mustn't stop and think too much about some of the implications of it. Makes me wonder exactly what I'm maybe facing here. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic.
Who are you? If you're truly alien, will we ever understand you?
How are we going to describe what this is to the public so they understand that something's happened, we don't know what it is, but what can we call it?
To me, the real concern here is you have to tell them enough, but not too much. So, as we don't really even know ourselves what it is, can we just confirm something's happened?
Well, we're going to have to, because people will need some sort of reassurance.
Yeah. I think that you'd have to say something like, the government confirms that there has been an unusual occurrence. There's no loss of life.
That's an important thing to reassure people.
Yeah. And no one is in imminent danger.
Can we really?
Well,
do we know that?
We don't know for sure. We believe no one is in imminent danger. And we're taking steps to ascertain the true nature of the occurrence.
To gain more information. Keep it simple.
Yeah. I would advise it to be political, no military, and no uniforms. And you'd have a notable figure that a scientist that everyone sort of believes. You'd probably actually have Sir David Attenborough, because he's a person everybody trusts, and he knows about wildlife, and he's been everywhere.
You can't tell people not to panic, because that's exactly what will happen.
Can you tell them to stand by their televisions and radios for further announcement?
I think listen for further advice.
Yeah.
for great segments of the population, if they're not being kept up to date by the powers that be, they're going to begin fearing the worst. I think that the prospect of panic is significant.
I think your main position is the UN Security Council, and the unanimous P5, so Russia, China, the United Kingdom, France, and the United States take the main role, and those are the most competent military powers. I can't see what else you could do, but it's very much, this is very much a reactive situation for nations. There's no contingency plan for this.
I hope the Prime Minister will be persuaded, if he hasn't already done so, to be in communication with allies very fast.
Yeah.
A, to get across this, and B, this is not for us to deal with, this is something for the world to deal with on a global basis, and therefore obviously United Nations is where we'll be heading.
The matter of extraterrestrial civilizations has been brought up within the United Nations only once. And I would like to read out the following. In view of the tremendous impact any contact with an extraterrestrial civilization would have on our planet, can this committee continue to ignore this possible development? Should we not, at the very minimum, be giving preliminary consideration to this subject? So consequently, the Committee on the Peaceful Uses of Outer Space had before it a note by the Secretariat entitled Messages to Extraterrestrial Civilizations.
We decided to reach out to you. We had no idea if we would ever make contact, but just trying made us feel empowered.
Before you arrived, we have spent a lot of time looking for intelligence from other worlds. In 1977, we sent a spacecraft out, the most comprehensive depiction of what it means to be human that was ever sent into the cosmos is contained on the Voyager spacecraft, the spacecraft that is, as we are speaking, leaving our solar system. That spacecraft included a recording for any other civilization that may detect it.
They contain copper phonograph records with samples of music of various cultures and times.
Over 100 pictures from around the world, included greetings in 55 languages. It was our attempt to say, we are now growing up as a civilization. We have a technology that lets us take our first step beyond our planet and, in fact, beyond our solar system. And we come in a spirit of exploration, and we hope to make contact with other life.
As the Secretary General of the United Nations, an organization of 147 member states who represent almost all of the human inhabitants of the planet Earth, I send greetings on behalf of the people of our planet. We step out of our solar system into the universe seeking only peace and friendship, to teach if we are called upon, to be taught if we are fortunate. We know full well that our planet and all its inhabitants are but a small part of this immense universe that surrounds us, and it is with humility and hope that we take this step.
When the people were putting together the Voyager recording, one of the most difficult questions they had to answer was, do we talk about parts of ourselves that we're not very proud of? The things that we wish were not so? Do we tell about war when human beings fight with one another? Do we tell about our ability to destroy our own civilization? Those were pictures that were never included in the Voyager recording. And some have criticized that message as not being honest.
Now that you're here, are you surprised at the sight of our soldiers? To us, it's perfectly normal. We often mobilize our military in pursuit of peace.
Now that you have arrived, we realize we have no legal regulations for this encounter between two different races in the universe. I'm an old lawyer, and since many decades I have tried to investigate the possible legal relationships between different races who live maybe in this galaxy, maybe in another galaxy. This is also a question which, since many centuries, was investigated by famous scientists here on Earth. We want to continue our existence, and we realize you want to continue your existence, and this could be formulated within the framework of legal rules, say the framework of a basic agreement, which we call meta-law. To make an example, it is prohibited to harm the other one. Every race has the right for its own living space. Everyone will have the right to self-defense in case of being attacked. I have a moral question. If one of our races needs help, this help, of course, costs the helper, but it is a moral obligation, according to our human thinking, to help another one if possible. And we hope that this moral obligation will be in your minds also.
We view ourselves as moral creatures. do you see us that way too?
I'm right at the base of the craft now. I'm going to circumnavigate it before I do anything else. My main focus at this point is to try and find a way into the craft. I haven't seen anything so far that is directly threatening. It's certainly a little bit intimidating. I'm at what appears to be the entrance, and now comes the point where I have to move inside myself. Okay, I'm stepping into the entrance, and inside it's dark. Strange, sudden, strong feeling of otherness and of company, and I can see no one, and yet I feel extremely strongly that there is someone, something else in this space with me. Very strange. It's human construction, or appears to be, but in this context that seems impossible, or very likely. I seem to be, I think that I'm in. I know there's a possibility that what I'm seeing may not be real. It's some sort of creation designed to provide something familiar. But it's a very strange sensation that something more human seems more unreal than the alien did. This is the first time I've started to doubt what I'm seeing. Taking a few steps forward. I'm just going to settle and sort of get the feeling of the space for a few seconds. I have my eyes closed. I can hear my breathing. I can feel that my pulse is slightly elevated. My hands are slightly clammy. And yes, once again, I've got that sensation of either being watched or if there is somebody else, something else there. but not that I can see, not that I can detect. So I can't tell if this is the imagining of my mind in a strange situation, or if it's indicative of anything else.
Scientific thinking has led us to believe that we are capable of understanding everything. And to understand is to master. We feel threatened by the unknown.
It would say based on fact and demonstrate that, competence. I'm the government spokesman. You understand that this event is hugely significant, and our media are already reporting your presence. It's very important for the government to provide some reassurance to the public that the government is in some sort of control and is trying to find out how to explain what you are and what the impact is. So you must understand we've already issued a statement to the media. That statement basically is to tell people that we know something's happened, something unusual, something that we can't quite describe, but we are doing something about trying to find out what you are, what this is. People like to know what is happening, and if people can't describe it or don't understand it, then it's normal for people to panic. If we don't inform the public, they'll make up their own conclusions. They will think that we're hiding something. They'll think it's worse than perhaps it might be.
And our problem is that the one thing we need are facts, and that's the thing which is in shortest supply. We have no idea of who or what you are, or what you're here for. That's the sort of thing that our government and governments around the world, our people, want to know. So we're working very hard with very little information.
We want to understand our world in order to control it. But your presence sparks our greatest fear, fear of losing control. Are you a threat to us?
We don't know how closely we're related, but we do worry that our organisms here on Earth could cause you a problem, and that things you're bringing with you might cause us a problem. So we want to go ahead and take some samples and exchange information about biology. So what I'd first like to do is check basic biochemistry, and to do that I'd like to take a swab. This is what they call a swab. It's got some sampling tissues on it, and if I run this over your skin and perhaps get it moistened, we can go ahead and deal with this. I won't do it completely, but provide for the sampling. Yeah, thank you. And over here. And then I take it back here, I put it into its vial, break it up and manage that. Of course, I'm wearing this suit for this particular sampling to ensure that you're not affected by either myself or the organisms that live on my body outside of my conscious control. Over 50% of my cells are not my own, but they're microbes that live on or within me. And so we're largely communities that move around through space and time.
You're asking me if life is blind to anything but survival. The answer is yes. Our experience on life on Earth is that life grows and expands unthinkingly. We call it evolution. It is responsible for the diversity of life. It is responsible for the robustness of life. It has been the dominant feature of life since the first life forms on Earth to today.
We can see that all life on Earth is descended from a universal common ancestor.
Evolution requires death and new generations. That's the grist on which evolution works. So you might say, let's imagine a perfect world where nobody dies. That would not be a perfect world. That would be a world where maybe no individuals die, but the phenomenon of life has died.
Evolution by natural selection explains most things about life on Earth. And we wonder, of course, whether or not that is a universal law, something that's found elsewhere in the galaxy and beyond.
My particular interest is searching for a second genesis of life. The question I want to know is, has life started separately, independently, somewhere else? Hence my interest in what you might represent. My question would be, does the life that you represent constitute a separate, independent origin of the life that I represent? Are we distant cousins? Or are we completely separate, independent life forms? It's possible that here on Earth there is a second genesis and we have not yet discovered it. All life that we've discovered is related and is all part of what I would call the first genesis. But there may be life that we have not discovered, and it may be that we haven't discovered it because our methods for detecting life are specific to life as we know it. We may be blind to this second genesis, present right here, which is why some people have named it the shadow biosphere. Maybe right here in our gardens and in the lawn and maybe even on our skin are living organisms that are so different from us biochemically that we wouldn't even recognize them in our life detection instruments. If you take a sample and take it to the lab and say, is there life in it? They're going to search for DNA. If there's no DNA, they'll send it back to you and say, there's no life in this sample. Well, that's a wonderful and very sensitive test for Earth-like life as we know it. Now, I mentioned that on Earth we have only one example of life, one shared biochemistry. My intuition is the explanation for that is competition at the genesis level, if you will. And we ate the competition. We ate them out of house and home. The reason we see only one type of life on Earth is because an ecosphere like the Earth can only house one organism, one life form, and we have outcompeted all the others. They're gone. They've been rendered extinct. So that even if Earth started off at one point with more than one biochemistry, one type competed with the other. Well, that opens up the scary prospect that if your life form represents a different biochemistry and is accidentally released on Earth, or if we accidentally contaminate your spacecraft, that without any malicious intention, the life forms will compete. And for that reason, I advocate a barrier to any interaction biologically between you and us until we resolve those questions. So the assumptive precautionary principle is separation. Nothing personal.
Fear can be useful. It encourages us to take precautions. But fear of imagined dangers can take us far beyond what's sensible.
In the history of our people, there's been a lot of thought about what would happen when this actually occurs. And the concern that we have is that a lot of that, we call it fiction, has powerful forces from outer space that have not always been benign.
Of course, within our brains, in the back of our brains, is still the fear, if there come aliens, will they suppress us? Will they enslave us?
As far as the human race is concerned, we get very nervous when we have something unknown or unexpected arrives close to us, and we tend to panic and sometimes can react aggressively.
The longer we don't know, the greater the fear of our people, and the greater difficulty it is for the government to provide that reassurance. People have fantastic imaginations, and rightly so, because this is a completely unprecedented event.
There will also be a demand from some sectors of the community to start getting ourselves ready to withstand an attack.
A reason for military response would be to ensure that the security, the safety and security of the population.
Some of our media may call this an invasion, using very, very provocative words which will panic people.
The Security Council can say that this is a threat to peace and security, international peace and security, and decide to take steps.
There will be a default position where some countries may feel that they need to use their own military defenses to protect themselves because something you've done gives them a thought that they may be about to be attacked. Because people will assume that that might actually happen.
If we act in an aggressive way, we may trigger your response and treat us in the same way. So the anxiety level in the world is going to be off the chart.
inevitably generate problems. The history of the human race on Earth shows the kind of problems that emerge when we view other humans as fundamentally different. We're not blind. Doesn't mean we always make the right decisions, though. We see, but we still don't necessarily understand, whereas other life forms don't even see. When a dog kills a baby, this is why there's no moral culpability, because it doesn't see, whereas a human does see. And that is a big distinction. We definitely see.
I think there may be some sort of sound oscillation going on, some oscillation in the atmosphere in the craft. I'm going to stop for some seconds, some time, and just see if I can listen more clearly. Yes, there is some sort of sound in this room. Most of it is at a very, very low frequency. It's difficult to judge how far I've come in the craft. The interior of the chamber appears to have changed somewhat. It feels very old. Again, I can see no one, and yet I feel extremely strongly that there is someone, something else in this space with me, which is giving me a slightly strange sense of mutability and change.
When confronted with the unknown, we want to bring it into the known. We want to conquer it.
Part of the reason that we humans fear aliens who come to Earth is that when we have moved into other countries, when we have moved to new continents on Earth, sometimes it has not been good for those who we have conquered.
Of course, we had historical occurrences, may I say, which are a little bit similar to your coming here.
In our history, whenever our more advanced civilizations have met with the less advanced civilizations, in almost all cases, the less advanced civilization has suffered.
Our fear is that perhaps another civilization will come to Earth and do what we have done to one another. My hope is that in the same way that your technology is advanced, that your morality is also more advanced than ours.
I
I want to tell you a story. It was in our human time, something like 5 centuries ago. People from Europe, one of the continents of Earth, discover a totally new world. They ask themselves, who are these people? And more precisely, are they human? Are they a creature of God? Do they possess a soul? If they don't possess a soul, a spirit, they are only animals. And they try to find proof of religious attitude. They try to find if these people have empathy. And what is perhaps incredible, but it was an official decision. The people said, okay, we decide to regard, to see this being as human. These people possess a soul as we possess a soul. It's a decision of our will. I can decide to be human with you, and if I decide to be human with you, you receive from me a certain human identity.
We may decide you are too alien for us, or too inferior to be among us. But we may also decide that you are what we call human.
You are asking me what is a human being. We have given so many different answers to that question over thousands and thousands of years that it's difficult to know where to begin.
At this time now on Earth, with the progress of science, we know that the human species is a result of a long biological evolution.
A human being is also something more than just a biological creature. There is something that we have that another extraterrestrial civilization doesn't, and that's our culture. Our own experience of being human. There's always been a desire to communicate something about our human spirit, about the range of feelings that we have. And that we also have an appreciation for the beautiful here on Earth. The Voyager recording tried to say something about our sense of beauty by sending beautiful music. One of my favorite passages actually comes right in the middle of the musical selections. First there's this kind of mournful, plaintive bagpipe music. Then there's a pause. And then there's this shift to Stravinsky Rite of Spring, this very pounding piece. And then there's another pause, and you hear this very ordered, very paced, very contained, very controlled Bach well-tempered clavier. And so in that one short section, it says something about the range of emotions that we feel, from a sense of mourning and loss to a sense of chaos and disorder and strife. And that in spite of all of that, we find a way to contain those experiences. We find a way of putting things in order and moving on with our lives.
We do consider ourselves as the highest representation of life here on this earth. Other life forms lack this essential ability to self-reflect, to be aware of one's existence.
For me, human being is always in construction. By the fact that we ask ourselves who we are and what we have to become, we have the capacity to build ourselves. All the product of our mind, our imagination, our incredible imagination.
By imagining, we can create events that did not exist before.
The ability to create our own destiny, our own future. But the unexpected is also something which we both love and hate.
So much of how we understand ourselves as human beings is as separate from nature as the creatures, the organisms that have created culture. And yet, ironically, that very thing that we use to define ourselves, a culture and civilization, is one of the things that is least stable. You're asking me why? Why do we see this shifting of the fortunes of civilizations? If there's one constant to civilization here on Earth, it's that civilizations initially flourish and then wither away.
Many other people may think that we are on the edge of destruction, that we could easily destroy civilization with the tools of war that we've invented.
You asked me if I have been to war. I have been engaged in warlike pursuits, yes. You asked me what happened? Why do you want to know that? In war, one is trained to operate in whichever medium you've been trained to make sure you defeat the enemy.
There is a point at which the frustration says, you know, we've been answering your questions and we haven't gotten a single answer on any of our questions. It would be threatening. Because again, you're not giving anything back. It's an interrogation in that way.
Uncertainty is probably the worst thing politically that can happen. We will need some form of good faith to be shown, some sign that you are benign.
We are intimidated by your silent presence, your scrutiny. What is it you see? Do we have something to hide?
We'll have some real trouble to control our people if we don't get answers to our questions soon. I am not empowered to offer you anything. I'm here to find out, but I don't have all the answers.
We can't cope with the unknowns. We need to understand. It's just the way we are, and the way we're wired.
What concerns all of us is if we don't get answers, one nation may decide it wants to take leadership and come here and try and force you to give answers, or somehow give them something which can make them more powerful.
My feeling is that this would constitute a threat to world security and world peace.
We have never known a time when there hasn't been war somewhere on our planet.
We don't have probably very advanced technology, but there is a technology which we have, which has a capability to deploy aggressive weapons, which we very much hope we will not have to do.
Not only do we have thermonuclear weapons, but many countries in our world have chemical weapons and biological weapons, and they've been used. We do have the capability of destroying our own world. We could make this world radioactive, so nothing could live here for many hundreds of years. We live in a world of mutually assured destruction. That, we think, keeps us safe.
Man would rather destroy everything than give up the illusion that he controls it all.
Are you hearing me? Are you seeing me? Are you feeling my presence? I suppose you have left.
Why would they not even answer our simplest questions?
Either they've got everything they wanted, or something happened to give them cause to believe that we could be a threat.
A scenario in which they get on their ship and take off, I think the entire species would go into a collective depression.
Don't forget us. We are again alone. Probably the normal condition of humankind, to be alone.
It's almost as unprecedented as one arriving as one going away. Why? Didn't they like us?
Where did they come from? Where did they go to? I mean, all those answers, I presume, are completely unanswered.
Yeah.
Theoretically, they existed. By the laws of probability, they have existed. But that's different than knowing that you are not alone in the universe. And the thought that humans were pure accident, a happenstance of the right chemicals at the right time on the right planet at the right distance from the sun, evoked a sense of that the universe was not only indifferent to our existence, but that we were pure chance.
Our approach as humans has been to step boldly into the dark and shed light on it and take the risk. We've always realized that that's the best course, is to boldly step into the dark and shine the light. And don't be afraid of the dark. Don't be afraid of the unknown. Go.
What is revolutionary is if we can actually come to understand in some way what they experience about the world. Because inevitably that means we have to expand our own experience of the world in ways we cannot imagine. It's so difficult to conceive of anything that is unknown.
The alien that never came to Earth has left. Whether it was truly here or not is not important. The moment we think it possible, reality expands.
It appears that my visit here is, for whatever reason, coming to an end. I find myself, I have to admit, a little bit reluctant. There's part of me that wants to go on exploring. I know that when I step outside, the world is going to want to know every last detail of my experiences. At the moment, this is my trip. Soon, this trip rightly will belong to the whole world. And nevertheless, I can't feel anything but a slight sense of regret. There's a calm, there's a peace at this moment. I've been through the ship. Right now I feel a great sense of tranquility, which I will have to try and carry with me as I emerge back out to meet the human race.
Ground control to Major Tom. Ground control to Major Tom. Take your protein pills and put your helmet on. Ground control to Major Tom. 7, 6. Commencing countdown, engines on. 3, 2. Check ignition and may God's love be with you. This is ground control to Major Tom. You've really made the grade, and the papers want to know whose shirts you wear. Now it's time to leave the capsule if you dare. This is Major Tom to ground control. I'm stepping through the door, and I'm floating in a most peculiar way, and the stars look very different today. For here am I sitting in a tin can. Spaceship knows which way to go.